Okay, welcome to week whichever this is. This is the week after the last week that we met. Did we met? We met. No, we met last Sunday
Yeah, we met last Sunday.
and did chapter 6 and a review for the exam. And boy, I tell you, if I was grading that exam, I would have failed that sucker. I didn't do so hot, so I apologize. Hopefully, some benefit came to you guys out of that thing.
It was nice to see what to expect. So when I did see the test, even though it was different from that one, I had a better idea of what to expect on.
Yeah. Well, it turns out that the exam that I worked last week, last Sunday, was given last spring and last fall. So I got extremely lazy in the spring and just gave the same exam that I did in the fall. So, I should have been prepared for it, but I wasn't. Although, in my defense, I started feeling sick on Monday, so maybe that was part of the thing on Sunday. So that's what we're going to go with, was that I was sick and not mentally prepared to be doing an exam. Okay, so now that we got that lie out and open, okay. Okay, so that was the recording one. Here's PowerPoint. On chapter 6, I did everything in the lecture directly from PowerPoint, and the students felt it would be better to do both a little hybrid PowerPoint and actual coding in MATLAB. So I'm going to try to do a little bit of both in chapter 7. Any input you guys can give me, because this is the first time I've actually lectured on this online class. I used to teach in person, which I lectured all the time, but that was, oh man, I tell you, Moby Dick was still a guppy back when I was doing that stuff. Instead of doing the full-blown, go away, display where you see my whole screen, I'll just show you the slides here. I don't know any other ways, because it was a pain to get back and forth out of PowerPoint and into MATLAB. Okay. Chapter 7, MATLAB for Engineers, written by Dr. Harley Moore, who lives up in Sandy, Utah. I've been to her house. I've never been inside, but I've been to her house. She's got some really big, tall poodles, man. I think they'd eat me alive if I walked into her house. Chapter 7 is on user-controlled inputs and outputs. On this chapter, you should learn how to prompt a user for inputs to a program, getting any kind of data that is needed for your calculation, or I've even done it for file names for a file that you wanted to open. Then you can create outputs with a display function. There is a notice in the reading of this book, a little bit of difference in the display function as to what I'm used to, so bear with me as I learn along with you on this. It has to deal with the difference between characters and string inputs, and then formatting the output for the fprintf. That's pretty much the same as it has been since I started teaching this class. Creating tables using the table function and store information and data, display the data. That is kind of cool. Holly learned on this iteration of the textbook that we've been kind of using the table function incorrectly in the past, and that we will learn the correct way that it was designed to be used after exam 2. So if you're in 1020, you may have to just read ahead on your own, or excuse me, maybe hit me up and we'll do a little side thing on it. And then create output, formatted output for use in other functions with sprintf. You can use that to put notes and annotations in plots and whatnot. Some graphical techniques to provide program input, and then finally use sections to modify and run MATLAB program. Ooh, and this is cool. I actually, reading this last night, I learned something I never knew about MATLAB. I always wondered, why does it do that when I do this, and what does it do? And I finally learned it last night, and it's kind of cool, so I'll make sure and show you that tonight. Okay, so far we've been using it in MATLAB in two modes, the scratch pad or the command window, depending on your preference. But hopefully you're doing all your work in the editor window, executing your code there, and then submitting that. I have had students in the past, and I've actually sat there and watched them. They'll program everything in the command window, and once they get it right, they'll copy and paste it into the editor. I don't understand why you would want to do that, but that's how they chose to do their homework, and it worked for them. So, but thus far, all the output, the end product that we're creating in MATLAB is basically for us. We're the ones writing the program. We're doing it for a specific purpose. In this chapter, you'll learn how to write your code for somebody else to come in and execute your code and be able to successfully use it. Hang on, go away. Oh, okay. I'm gonna silence my phone so it doesn't bother us anymore. So that's what we're going to do with today. Is this format okay for you guys? Would you rather I try and blow it up and figure out how to get from... I can probably do it with the Alt-Tab, I think. Okay, no news is good news. Okay, so communication between the program and the user makes it... yeah. So this is... the functions that we're going to learn to do this is the input. The input allows us to put data directly into MATLAB via the command window. In later chapters, you'll learn how to do a menu to where it just drops down and you can pick a button. I'm not sure if that may be after exam 2. And then there's the display function, the table function, and the fprintf, which we've already kind of quickly gone over. So user-defined input. We can write our programs, like I said, to have the user input data. So in the past, the only way we've done it is with character inputs. Prior to this book, character and string were basically the same thing, but now there is a differentiation between character and string. Character, each individual letter or space or everything is an actual element in the array, whereas a string, you'll have a one-by-one array which contains the information, the text that's in that string. If that's clear as mud, I don't blame you, because I am so confusing. Okay, so let's do an example of an input, and we'll come up here and we'll hide this guy here. We're going to use that in a little bit. What's this one? Oh, that was something I learned earlier too. Okay, so we'll start off with clear. This and clears. We go to our workspace, we see all kinds of junk, but now it's gone. So to use the input, we can assign it to a variable and put the word input, and then to do a string, we do a double. Okay, you notice this has a prompt and an S. I'll explain that in a second. But the double quotation mark puts it in as a string. Enter your name. Okay, and then we'll end with a semicolon, because if we don't, then it's going to show up twice in the command window. Now, entering in as a string, you must, as a user, enter it with double quotation marks, because it needs to be entered in as a string variable. So you notice over here that it's a one-by-one. There is a second option. If we do it as a character, input, and this one you do single quotations. What is your name? And we'll even leave this one a question mark. And we'll suppress that. And okay, we'll do this here first like this. So the first one is the string, so we got to do the single double quotation marks. The second one is the character, so we do a single quotation mark, and this will tell us how many characters. Oops, single, boom. Oh, look at that. And see, so character name has 10 elements, whereas the string has only one. Now, if you don't want your user to have to put the single quotation marks, you can put a format in here with an S. Okay, and again, the S stood for, in the old days, string, which was characters were the same as strings back in the old days, but now it is completely something different. But by putting that format in there, I should have commented, oops, got to do the double quotations. And then you don't have to put anything on it if you have this a formatter here. So I can just type in my name and voila, we get the same response. Let's well, not F9 because that'll mess with the recording. We'll execute that.
I'm having a little trouble seeing your screen right now.
I'm sharing it, aren't I?
I think so, but...
Oh man, you know what? I bet I'm not. Oh yeah, I think I am. Oh, maybe I'm not. Oh dang it, I'm not.
I do not believe that you're sharing it through Zoom.
Was it in Zoom?
Now it is.
Now it is.
Okay, dang it. You got, okay, so, you know, I only have 2 functioning brain cells, and when I'm sick, they're both sick too, so. Okay, well, this will all be in the video. So here's the name put in as a string input. You notice the double quotation marks. And then this here, the first time I went through, it didn't have this. It was just that. Let's finish this here. Get Skippy in there. So if we run this, oops, got it. Because this is a string input, we got to do the double quotation marks, and hopefully they come around and fix that. And this one, because we don't have a format, we have to put the single quotation marks. But if we do the format of an S, and then we'll just rerun this part here. Execute. What is your name? We'll just go as Mud. And you see that brought that in as a character. Okay, I apologize. I'd like to say that's the first time I've ever done that, but we know that's a lie.
That's okay.
And I guarantee it won't be the last time I do it either. So, okay. Well, I asked you guys if you could see the PowerPoint okay, and nobody said nothing, so I just assumed. I know, you should never assume. Where's my PowerPoint?
That's
Come on.
bad too.
Here it is. Okay. So, here we've covered that. Expect this as a string. Once the value, so it brings it in and assigns it to the value. Or enter similar matter, MATLAB code, yada yada yada. Yeah, you can do numbers too, and if you want an array, you just separate them by the, just like you would code it in MATLAB with a semicolon between each row, inside of square brackets. And then we've already covered the string. Okay. Oh, we covered this one here too. So this is all taken directly out of your textbook. But I pretty much covered everything on those slides. If you want me to go back, I will. So again, here is the S format. So output options. Any questions on input?
Nope, not from me.
Chandler, you got any questions on input?
Nope, I am good.
Okay, cool. I expect you guys to get 100% on that section of the homework. Okay, so output. There are several ways to display the contents of what you're doing inside of MATLAB. Other than just typing out the variable name and having it read it out. There is the display, the fprintf, and the table. Again, the display has changed since I've been doing this, so bear with me as I learn along beside you. And like I say here, the table function creates a new data type, which will be described later, chapter. But it still serves as an efficient way to display information. So the display, I'm going to get rid of this. So the display displays string formatted variable inputs. That's kind of because it's not right either, because if you're combining, they both have to be the same format. So if we have x equals 1 to 5, and get rid of that, and let's clear in CLC, and we tell it to display x, it will display x. There we go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they are of where's my format? Type, value, size, byte, class. There we go, double. But let's say we want to, and this is where this is the new part coming in. So bear with me here, okay? Let's say we want to say the first. There's only one R in first. 5 digits are, and so here's a string, and then we're going to add our x variable in here. And I'm thinking, I'm hoping I'm doing this right. Bear with me. So, see, back in the olden days, we would have to put these in square brackets, and then convert x from a number to a character or string. But now you just got to do a plus. It's as simple as adding. I want to add that. Boom, and there we go. But see, because it has this text here, it repeated it 5 times. But if we make this just a single digit, boom, there we go. The first 5 digits are 5. Yeah, first 5 digits. Anyway, but there is, I think there was a way to, C, Y, okay, so I see, again, I'm learning as we go here. So in order to get this to do what I originally set out, we have to do like we did back in the olden days, and somewhat we got to change this from numbers to strings. So we'll do a num to string of x, and now it'll put it all together in one line. Okay, does that make sense? Because there were 5 digits in here, it went and displayed it 5 times. In fact, if we were to take this and transpose it, I think this would display it a little bit more. There you go, in 5 lines instead of the nonsense that we had before. And if you want to get a space between the numbers there, you just put a space in here, and now when we run that, there's a space. But if you wanted the numbers, num to string, too many m's in num, num. There we go. Okay, any questions on that?
Makes sense.
If you want,
I do not.
you stepped in what?
Oh, I do not have any questions.
You denied your questions?
No, I don't have any questions.
Oh, you don't have any. Oh, I thought you was denying them. And I said you shouldn't deny questions. Answers, yes, but not questions. If you want to put an apostrophe in there, it may work in the string. Let's see. Yeah, but if you were doing characters, you would have to. And I don't know if this will work with the character this way, because of that. This here would have to be back in the olden days where this was in square brackets. Quote, this is undetermined. Don't do that to me. It might not like this here. Let's get rid of this. Control X. And it still doesn't like that. See? Okay, it wanted... see, it needed 3 single quotation marks, apostrophes, to get that one to print. I think it's probably because it was at the end. If we wanted to put it up here, we would just have to put 2 in there. And the same goes for double quotation marks in a string. Okay. So now, play with the display. It's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Like I say, it'll display your variables without listing the variable name. It'll just display what's being stored inside of that variable. Okay. The next method that we use to display data to the screen, there's one important feature that students struggle with, and that is the fprintf. This code, I think, came straight from C++. I believe it is a standard code in C++. So let's say we have well, there's oh man, I can't think. Somebody think of something. Okay, how about we go on vacation? That sounds good. Let's go. Oh wait. Okay, let's just repeat our last problem here. Let's do okay, x equals 1 to 5, and we're going to fprintf this out, and we'll do it in the single quotations to do string output. Okay, we're just going to do a column of digits, and then the digit from the variable. And what you need here is called a placeholder, and a placeholder is defined with a %, followed by the format type. Now there are several format types. Let's see if I can find it here in the. Okay, here we go. So some of the formats are %f is a fixed point notation, E is exponential notation, D is a decimal notation, does not include trailing zeros, G is whatever is shorter, F or E, C is a character, and S is a string. You can get these out of the help on Canvas, or you can it's in your textbook too. Now you'll see a lot of time digits here. So I'm going to say a 5. Well, it's kind of ridiculous. Okay, let's take this by a 0.15 spacing. Okay, so we don't have full digits here, but we're going to have 2 digits on the left or the right side of the decimal point. So I'm going to do a 5.2f. And then something that's very also important when you're using fprintf is you need a new line or return character, and that is with a backslash and an n. That will take the input or the output from the screen from the existing line and go down and start a new line. And then you need to give it the variable for which to take and put. Oh, you be quiet. I don't do phones. Leave me alone, especially not spam. I'll put you in the drawer so the battery can go dead. So it's going to take the information out of this variable to put in the placeholder every time it goes through until it runs out of elements in the input variable. So now we're going to run this, and we have an error. Oh, I got too many semicolons. Okay, well let's okay, well we'll improve on that. We'll do this first to show you that. Okay, so there's our digits, and you'll notice that it. Okay, so now let me explain these numbers right here, because I just threw them at you and said, okay, we're going to do 5.2. Well, what does 5.2 mean? 5.2 is very, 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 very important. Okay, 5 tells MATLAB how many character spaces that will be the minimum amount used to display the value in X. So it's 5 total. So that's 1, 2, 3, counting the decimal, 4, 5. So it's holding one place over here. So if I took this up to 15, and let's not get so many digits on there, we'll run this again. You'll notice that there's one space between these here because I did 5, and the most we have is 5. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 2 tells it how many decimal places to the right of the 0 to display. If for chance you did this is kind of meaningless, because you're saying, okay, the minimum amount of space we need is 1, and we want 2 places. Well, 1 is more than 2, and you got to have 3 if you're going to have a decimal point. But it'll still run, but now you're not right justified. So I like when I'm building tables, I like to print it off, find out which character has the most numbers in it. Mostly it's going to vary to the left side of the decimal point, and then set that as my my placement holder, and that way everything's always, I mean, you could always cheat and do a control tab or \T, which gives it a tab. I don't know if this, yes, but still, see, that gives you a nice, good, right justification on your. And these here are in the book, textbook too. Your control tab and control or \tab, \n, \r is the same as an n, which is a return. Okay. So that's all fine and dandy because it's just one element, one variable. Well, what happens if we want to add 2 variables? Okay, so let's actually create a table of numbers and this value here. So let's do an element number is going to equal 1 to length of X. Okay, and then we'll create a matrix of Mom just told me she'll paddle my bum. Sorry, a Christmas song from back in the 80s. Okay, so I put these both into a matrix, and then I'm going to come down here and change this to values, but I want to have 2 placeholders now, and so I'm going to put in another placeholder here, and it's going to be an element, so it's going to be an integer number. So I'm going to just do I don't imagine I'm going to have 100 digits, so I'm going to do a 2.0 F, and we'll get rid of the digits, and we'll put a header on here. Oops. Display element, and then value, and then kind of space it out nice and pretty, and then run it and say, oh, look at that. So this is where you can come in, and I mean there are probably more gooder ways to do this, but Control Z, there we go. I like to come in and play with the spacings afterwards to line them up after and underneath. Now, does that look like a great table or what? Say, no, it's all foobar. You're right. Okay, so see what it's doing is it's listing, don't know what it's doing, because it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, I see. Okay, so it's listing all of the X values. Oh, I got these in backwards. Ah, you're an idiot. Oh, thank you for your kind words. You are so generous today. You must be Sikh. Oh, I am Sikh. So my elements were in, or my matrix was built different than my header. I mean, it was easier to move 2 characters than to change all that around. So now if we run it, now we see that it's listing all of the element numbers first and then the values. Well, why is it doing that? I know exactly why it's doing that, and I did that on purpose to try and teach something. I tell you, man, I get goofy when I don't feel good. So what's very important when you're using the fprintf with multiple placeholders is create your, and this is programming according to art. Okay, this is what I've learned to do that works really well for me. Over the last 100 years that I've been doing this, I like to build my thing here and then display it, and then, okay, so see what I have here is I've got one column with 52 inputs, and I could get that over here too. One column with 52 inputs. With the fprintf and the placeholders, for every placeholder that you have in your fprintf statement, you need one row of data points, because what I'm going to change this here to a semicolon, re-execute this, and then come over here and look, no, not you, and look at the values again. So now I have 2 rows. So what MATLAB does when it comes in here and does this fprintf, this first placeholder, it goes to the first column, takes that value right there. The second one, it goes down that column to that one, and then when it hits the end, it goes back and starts running again, but it doesn't automatically come. If there was more columns down here, it would keep going until it reaches the bottom of that column, and then it'll go to the next column. So for every placeholder you have, you need to have a row of data points in your matrix input variable. Does that make sense? Oh, somebody's chatting. Sorry. Oh, Chandler, don't leave us. I'll get better, I promise. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And you notice that when we run this now, see, we have all our elements 1 through 26 and our data points lined up over here, right, justified. Everything looks nice, neat, hunky, and dory. I mean, if you want to get really neat, you can come in here and draw a line underneath there.
Your parentheses.
No, the parentheses, right? The computer's backwards. What? What?
Oh, disp.
Disp. Yeah, he's an idiot with a girl named Bridget. She likes to fidget and play with midgets. Sorry, my oldest twin, his name is Bridget.
Uh-huh.
So that's the important parts of the fprintf. Is the placeholders, one placeholder for every value that you want to print out, and then one row for every placeholder you have. Now there is another way in which you can bring these in without building this. We can just comment this out, is you can put both variables down here, and we'll go element and X. And is that going to work? No, it's not, but we're going to show that it don't anyway. Okay, so that gets us back to the same thing, because it's going to go through all of the elements, then it goes into the X. So in order to get that to work, we put these in square brackets. Again, one row for each element, and now it works. And if you want to see if this works, you can just highlight all that and execute it, and it'll show you that you have one row for each element. Okay, okay. Let's see, we covered new lines, fprintf from script, we did that from script, filled identifiers. That wasn't even in the textbook. Why is it in here, Holly? Have I got the right? She's trying to confuse me. Let's see. Okay, I don't remember reading about that, so I'm not going to confuse you with something I don't know. So common misconceptions. Oh, okay. That's that. Sorry. She's calling these filled identifiers, where the first one is the number of characters, minimum number of characters to set aside, and how many digits on her right side of the decimal point. Sorry. Okay. This, I get better, I do. Maybe. Okay, not today. Maybe next week. Okay, using with arrays, we did that. We did that. We did that. Okay, sending form out to a file. I've done this before, but what this is doing in here, hello? Somebody emailed me, hang on a second, let's see what's going on here. Oops. See if it was important. Oh, Holly just sent us chapter 12. Maybe she wants to come in and finish this lesson for me. So there is a way for which you can write data directly to a file. I've done it before, but it was some very intense programming. You have to open the file as an fopen and then write to the disk. So you give it a file ID name is an fopen, and then the file name to which you're writing to. WT was oh crap, what does I know somewhere she defined what WT was, but I forget. Hence the string WT. And then you can just write to the file, and then when you get done writing to that file, you do an fclose. If you want to learn how to do that, holler at me and I'll walk you through it. But there are some really sprintf. Sprintf works the same as the fprintf, but you can assign it to a variable. Well, here, let's just look at what she's done here, so I'm not just copying over. So she's taken the sprintf, some output, and assigned it to an A. So it's useful for integrating tables and graphs. So we'll get back to that real quick here. The table function most of you've already used. You can set up tables really quick with variables, and column headers are built in. This example is in the textbook with the moon gravities. So let's get to the code for the table. So here's the code. I don't know if you can see that tiny itty bitty little code. There we go. So it's tabled with the 3 variables and then variable names and then the names of them, and gives you a nice little plot here. But it still has this up here on top: planet, G, distance. If you don't specify the variable names, it just puts down the names of the variables that you use to create the table. And what's important on doing tables is you got to make sure that your inputs are column vectors, not row vectors, because it really confuses MATLAB and you get a really strange output if you use row vectors. Okay. Graphical input, G input. So this one here, if you assign the output to the G input to 2 variables, the first one will be the X location and the Y location. This number here is very important. Okay, if you do not include a number in the G output command, it will just keep going and going and going until the user hits enter. But if you only want them to pick one location on your plot, put a 1. If you want them to pick 2, put a 2. Then after the second click, it ends and outputs the X and Y in a matrix form. This is good. I've used this before. The data I'd use has little blips in it, and our test bar had 5 defects in it, so I set it up so that I would get a G input for 6 points, so that I could hit on either side of a defect. Well, I guess that would be on 3 of them, and so that kind of narrowed it down so that then I knew which part of the data contained information on the defects. So it's really, really cool. So when you execute this, the G inputs puts a crosshair in your plot window, and then you can move that around, and when you get it to where you want, you just click the button and it takes. Now it says in the textbook it said the right, but I always used the left, but it could be different now. I haven't used it in quite some time. So if one button doesn't work, use the other one, and it'll put that information in. And then if you once you've clicked that, you can set it up in a text box, and it will I thought it went into the text box. Okay, add a title. Okay, no. Okay, I'm so confused now. But if you put the XY coordinates into a text box, it'll put that text into your plot. Okay. There we go. Graphical input. There we go. Reading, writing from files, common file types. Import wizard. We've covered the import wizard prior chapters on bringing data points or data files in. The UI import function. So apparently, I noticed on running some code here earlier today that they're no longer. MATLAB doesn't like the XLS read. It prefers you use the read table and write table for Excel files. So I guess I'm going to have to learn some new tricks. MATLAB will bring in audio files if you know the format. But you know, there are so many different formats available. You got to just get one that you know that MATLAB will be compatible with. So here we go, the read table function to bring in data files. I mean, it's like she doesn't even list the load command anymore. She's trying to make this old dog learn new tricks. That's what she's doing. So yeah, so load table. I guess if it works, then I'm happy with it. I just don't want to have to import every time I run a file. So I'll have to play with the read table because that's new to me. Variable editor, which is fine. It's just you double click on the file to open it up. Exporting data, you can do a read table, write table, the variable that you want to write to it. Yeah. Where T is array you want to store in the Excel spreadsheet. So this is the variable you want to store, and this is the Excel spreadsheet that you're saving it to. Okay, so I went through that kind of quickly because it's all confusing stuff, and I'll help you with it if you have issues. So debugging your code. So here we go. And I'm trying not to keep you past it is 8 o'clock. So this is the last part that I'm going to cover here. So one thing that I actually learned on this chapter in reading last night was these. I've told you guys before, these little marks over here that are there. Where's that file at? I borrowed one of your students' homework files, and I edited it so that it was. So you'll notice that there's not a semicolon at the end of all these lines, but they're not showing up over here. I found out how to get rid of those silly things. Okay, I don't like them because students will go through and suppress all the output, and then I can't see what's going on. So if you want to suppress those so they're not there, go to Preferences, go to Code Analyzer. It took me a minute for this to come up, but once it gets up there, 17, 20, 25, 30, it's got a lot of errors that it goes through and looks for. So now we're up to 40%, 45%. I should have left this window open, but then I might not have been able to work in MATLAB. 65%. We're getting there. Don't fall asleep on me yet. Okay, so in the search here, type in terminate, and right here, these two, if you deselect those two, all those little notices go away, and it's just a lot less confusing. And because it seems counterproductive to have that. See, now I can see in this program that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 issues that it finds. 4 of them are just warnings, and 1 of them is an error. So this warning says that you intend to specify expression precedence, use parentheses instead of brackets. So I mean, for here, there's don't need these square brackets on here because you've only got the one variable. So down here, you assigned R to something, but it says it never got used. But I made so there's a red flag here. If we tried to run this, it wouldn't run because of this error here. You can click on that error and click on that error, and it says on line 12, a parenthesis may be missing. Oh, look at that. There it is. And now it's all more gooder. So I think that is more useful than all those end with a semicolon. And then the one thing that I learned that I've never always wondered, because I've always clicked on a number over here and I'm like, well, why did it do that? How do I get rid of it? So what this thing does is this is a debugging software. And where is... Okay, here we go. So now this allows you to go through your code one line at a time. So we're going to start. Let's start up here. Let's stop that code. Come up here. Step. So every time you click a step, it's going to go down one line of the code, and you can see exactly what your program is doing. And what's really cool is when you get down to like here, you can step inside of that function, and it'll show you what's going on inside of the function too. And so this would have been handy last chapter on user-defined functions to see, watch it as it's running. And then when you get done, you can step out and it goes back to your main program. So this is kind of cool. So I think if you start up here, stop, come up here, running time, yeah, so it stops at these marks here. Go away, I don't want you. Then continue to the next stop, and then to the next stop. So it allows you to, rather than using sections to run a specific code, you can just put these stops in here and it'll run till it hits that stop. Is that cool or what? Say, yeah, man, that is just totally tubular. I mean, gag me with entire place setting. Okay. Oh, and then if you're interested, this is the lady who coined the computer bug. This is in your textbook. That was the first time it was ever. Okay, we did the code, we did that. Continue executing code and summary. So that's it on inputs and outputs. I know it wasn't the most fantastic lecture you've ever sat through. I know I'm not going to get nominated for the Professor of the Year. But do you have any questions, comments, wants, needs, desires, concerns, complaints you want me to start over? No, please.